Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Unquestionably Raw. We are in our last Eastern Conference preview, and we saved the so-called super team, according to Derrick Rose, for last. So we've got the New York Knicks, and we've got Keith Smith back with us of RealGM.com. Of course, we've got DJ Gonzo Star, Matt, and myself. So, Keith, jumping right in. Of course, Derrick Rose came out with the comments of the Knicks being looked at as a so-called super team. Of course, he's kind of their prize acquisition this season, along with Joakim Noah and some other pieces. So let's talk about the depth chart and just kind of where you see some of those new pieces fitting in New York and Phil Jackson's so-called version of the triangle that he wants Jeff Hornacek to run.
Yeah, I think they actually did for this year. They did a nice job. They've been in a spot where they hadn't been able to really improve the roster very much. They had traded away a lot of draft picks. You know, they obviously hit big in the draft last year with Porzingis. He's been excellent. But then around, him and Carmelo obviously is the mainstay. Their options had been somewhat limited for improvement. So, they went out, they got Derrick Rose, which was actually, again, for a season, is a nice move, especially in a summer where the point guard market was fairly limited. And then Joakim Noah is not a bad fit for a season. You're going to hear me repeat that multiple times. And then my favorite signing that they made out of them all was Courtney Lee. I think he's going to be excellent for them. He's a good defender on the wing, good shooter. He doesn't really need the ball a lot. He's played on a lot of good teams with superstar players, so he knows how to interact with those kind of guys. And then the depth behind them, I like that they brought Lance Thomas back. He's a good player. He's finally come into his own after a number of years bouncing around. And then they took, kind of shots on a couple guys. So they brought Willie Hernan-Gomez over. They drafted a couple years ago, or acquired the draft rights to a couple years ago. And then the mystery man, Mindaugas Kuzminskas, is coming in, and they like him a lot. They think he's going to be a really good energy forward, get up and down the floor, shoot it a little bit for them. So we'll see, where they go. They're still, for me, though, and then I guess Brandon Jennings. I shouldn't have skipped him either, especially when Derrick Rose is your starter. You got to have a good backup. So they've got some depth, but one injury to the big guys, it's gonna be tough for them to rebound from it. And unfortunately, a lot of those big names have an injury history.
Absolutely. Gonzo, what's your thoughts on kind of the roster makeover, so to speak?
I think when Derrick Rose first talked about them being a super team, I think that he was pretty much trying to sell himself due to the fact of his injury-plagued career. And I'm a Chicago fan first, and I've always loved the Knicks as my second team because I always respect the way they played against Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But Derrick Rose is – I hope Derrick Rose is there. I hope he can reinvent himself because here in Chicago, his history with injuries. I know people who know the trainers who work with Derrick Rose. They say his work ethic was kind of poor. So hopefully, he gets himself back on track and have a better career in New York. The thing that I question the most about the Knicks is probably going to be the bench play. Your starting five, yeah, they have a decent starting five to compete in the East. It just comes down to bench players. Like, can Hernan-Gomez be a good contributor off the bench? Ron Baker. Brandon Jennings is probably their best scorer off the bench, I would probably say. But he's a 39% shooter for his career. I don't know. It's the benchmark. Can you get production out of some of these guys off the bench, to contribute with the starters?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's the biggest league. I see them as a playoff team. So.
Okay. Matt, what's your thoughts?
I really like this Knicks team. You know how I feel about what the moves they made. And I'm basing this, I think they're going to be healthy this year. And I don't have to say much about the starting lineup. I actually think it'll work. I think Rose and Carmelo, I think they're willing to sacrifice a little bit at this stage in their careers, especially Carmelo. So I don't know if it's actually going to hurt Porzingis that much. I think this may actually help him. And obviously Courtney Lee is such a huge upgrade over that weak Aaron Aflalo taking bad shots that he did last year for the Knicks. Porzingis is going off. You're in some games, and there's a Flalo jacking up shots because Carmelo's injured and not playing. And Courtney Lee's not going to he's not going to do that. He's not going to try to create off the dribble. He's going to play defense. He's going to hit open threes. That's what they need out of that with who they have on the bench. I like Brandon Jennings, and it seems like he really wants to prove that he can still play after the injury. Mm-hmm. So I think I like that move. I like Lance Thomas. He really good defender, good shooter. So I think they'll be good there. And I do like Ron Baker. I think he'll provide some extra ball handling for him, another good shooter. Give me him over Sasha Vujacic any day. I'm sorry. I know that's your favorite player, Pete, but I don't like Sasha. And I do like Kyle O'Quinn. I think he's going to give him, good energy guy, can hit the 17-foot setup shot, going to play defense, rebound. I think their bench could turn out to be decent.
Okay. For the record, I am not a fan of Sasha Vujacic.
I hope everybody caught my sarcasm. That was sarcasm for everybody is there.
Listening. They could not see Matt's sarcastic face when he made that statement. I'm a huge fan of shooters, of course, being a shooter myself. But Sasha, he just needs let it go. Phil Jackson needs to stop throwing out feel sorry contracts. And get somebody in there that can produce.
What Pete's basically trying to say is Sasha needs to just go away.
Basically, he's in the same category as an Isaiah Cannon for me, very low on the totem pole, so to speak. But looking at the bench, Kyle O'Quinn, I look for him to have a better year than he did last season. Kind of a veteran role player, can kind of be a banger down low, can do some of the dirty work. Kuzminskis, he's going to be kind of the question mark for me. Can he fill that small forward role / power forward role as a stretch four? He's Lithuanian, came over from Unicaja Malaga, played 3 seasons there, did pretty well. So curious to see, kind of taking a flyer on him, what happens. A guy that we haven't mentioned, Justin Holiday. He has experience with the Warriors, played, with Chicago as well. I think he can actually show some promise this season, can give you a good score. 2 years ago in the Summer League is kind of how he got noticed, scoring on a regular basis. He can also shoot the three pretty well. The question mark is going to be the depth at the power forward and center spot for me, because I don't really trust Hernan Gomez being a rookie quite yet until he gets his feet wet. And then Marshall Plumlee being there, I think that's another feel good contract. Let's see what we have, and if he doesn't pan out, basically we'll cut our losses. I think they could needed another veteran guy in there in that spot. Behind Derrick Rose is Brandon Jennings going to be healthy enough to contribute on a nightly basis? And is he going to be the Brandon Jennings that's under control, or is he going to come in and start jacking shots and look for a me first attitude? And then finally, looking at Derrick Rose, I listened to an interview with him, and the first thing out of his mouth about New York was, well, I got to figure out how to get my kids here. They're in Chicago. I got to figure out how to get my boys here. They're in Chicago. How about let's worry about being healthy first, leading your team under a new system, learning a version of the triangle that you're not really used to, and work on cutting to the basket, being able to finish on a regular basis, and work on that outside shot. That's what I want to see first. So next question we have, and Keith, I'm going to, of course, go to you first. Looking at kind of the change in personnel with Jeff Hornacek, what would you say the biggest difference is going to be with this Knicks team this year under Jeff Hornacek? And do you think that Phil Jackson is going to have a mild influence or a major influence on what he makes Hornacek run as far as a system on offense and defense?
Yeah, I think they're going to play almost a combination of the triangle, and then he's going to let Hornacek run some of his preferred dribble drive offense. He had great success with those early Suns teams of his, with Goran Dragic and Eric Bledsoe getting to the basket, and then just bigs diving to the rim. He made Miles Plumlee an NBA player. Now the guy's making $13 million a season. So that is owed a lot to the way he played with the Suns, and that's where Derrick Rose is at his best, right, is when he can play an attacking game off the dribble, find cutters, or get to the rim himself. So I don't think they're going to completely remove that. But Phil Jackson, for him, anytime you hear him talk, the triangle is more than an offensive basketball system to him. It's like this mystical way of life that everybody should live by. And, the thing is, this year, they at least have some pieces. Joakim Noah fits the triangle great, right? You need to have a big man who can pass the ball, especially from various points on the floor. Depending on how they're running. If they're running that sideline triangle, he needs to be able to get to the elbow, extended area, make passes from there. And he's, one of the top 2, maybe 3, maybe even the best passing big man in the league. So, he'll fit that really nicely. He'll help Carmelo and Porzingis get some easy buckets out of it. So I'm curious, one thing I've been thinking a lot about is I think they're going to almost play it backwards, where when he had the most success with the triangle, it was when he had a point guard who kind of just hung out around the perimeter and shot the ball, and then a shooting guard who handled the ball a lot, whether it be, MJ in the original version or Kobe. So I think they're going to play it almost backwards, where Rose becomes that shooting guard type, and Lee is the one who's hanging out around the perimeter waiting for the ball. And I think that'll fit them a little bit better. And then when Jennings comes in, maybe you stay with that approach, and leave Lee out there. So it'll be curious to see how they play it. I think it's going to be too much triangle initially, and then it's going to become almost a war of wills over whether it's going to be the coach or the president of the team that wins out and gets their way.
Okay. Gonzo, what's your thoughts on Hornacek?
I think Hornacek will bring an up-tempo offense to the team. Again, is Phil Jackson going to let Hornacek coach like he wants to? Because I think Phil Jackson, to a degree, the triangle might be a tad bit overrated. And I only say this, no disrespect to Phil Jackson, because he is one of the greatest coaches of all time. But let's be real. Phil Jackson has been one of the greatest opportunists of all time. He's always jumped in and coached teams that had guys like Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Kobe, Shaquille O'Neal. You always had those type of guys to build around. And when he got this Knicks team, Melo is a great player, but I can't compare Melo to a player like a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant. I just can't. So to see them working the triangle with Melo and these pieces, I don't know. I'm kind of confused about this thing. I say I would like to see Hornacek coach the way he likes to,
Mm-hmm. Okay. Matt, what's your thoughts on that?
I think Hornacek can bring an exciting style, because they did play a nice, fun style in Phoenix, and like Keith said, with the attacking, and the bigs cutting. Remember, they got Marshall Plumlee now, so maybe he can do the same for Marshall that he did for Miles. And I think Marshall's going to make the club. But I think eventually you're going to see. I think eventually it'll be Hornacek's system with the triangle sprinkled in here and there, to get easy buckets for Porzingis and Carmelo. And Noah does fit with his passing. Keith hit that one perfect. He might be the best passing big guy in the league. But I think they'll be fun to watch this year. I think Hornacek will be able to do what he wants to do for the most part. I think Phil will, because Phil is under a lot of pressure right now. He sold New York that he was going to turn this thing around, and now, and outside of the Bulls and the Lakers, when has the triangle ever worked? You have to have the right guys to run the triangle, and I think you let Hornacek do his thing. If it's not working, hey, let's try the triangle. But I think it'll work, because I think this is going to be a really good team this year.
Absolutely. With Hornacek, is he going to be able to play his style, or is he going to be handcuffed the entire season by Phil Jackson? I think if Phil can get the hell out of the way and just let Hornacek do what he can do, he'll definitely pull the development out even further out of Porzingis. I think Porzingis is really going to have, an outstanding second season. I think with Melo, he's that determined to prove people wrong and push for a deeper playoff run. And with Joakim Noah, I mean, that intensity and just the fierce competitor that he is, he's not going to allow a lot of guys to get away with just kind of slacking off. And Derrick Rose, if he can be anywhere close to the Derrick Rose of MVP, I mean, they're a lock to be in the playoffs and in an up-tempo system. I mean, that's where Derrick can thrive. He just got to make smart decisions, trust his body, and really work on that outside shot. And then the role guys will just kind of fit in, like they always have, like a Kyle O'Quinn going to do the dirty work, and then Justin Holiday can knock down shots. Courtney Lee's going to knock down outside shots and be able to defend. So Hornacek, the best thing he can do is up-tempo and just work on the development and just, kind of work a system like he did in Phoenix on developing guys. So looking at 3 keys that may make or break the Knicks this season, what do you have, Keith?
Yeah, I'm going to steal the obvious one is health. Right?
Yes.
I'll cover it for all of us, fellas. If the main guys aren't healthy, they're going to be in trouble. Beyond that, I think a big one's going to be how does Porzingis develop? Can he take that next step towards being a true superstar? And I also want to see, I'm going to give you kind of a 1A or a 2A, 2B on that, will they give him some minutes to play almost as a stretch 5? I want to see, what he can do. That seems like his role, ideally with the way the league's heading, and that's where he should be. And then beyond that is, can they get enough production off their bench to be productive? Even if the starting 5 is healthy, they're not going to play 40 minutes a game. None of those guys are those kind of players anymore. So can they get enough production off the bench to be good? So those are the 3 things I'm going to watch for.
Okay. Gonzo, what's your 3 keys?
I think Keith pretty much nailed it on the head. First, health. Specifically, Derrick Rose, Joakim Noah, Carmelo Anthony. You need those guys, in order for the Knicks. They need those guys in order for the Knicks to be successful. Secondly, I would have to say coaching. Will Hornacek be able to run the offense, run the team like he wants to, without a lot of interference from Phil? And another thing that Keith said again, bench productivity. Who's going to be the productive guys off the bench? Who are going to be the consistent contributors off the bench?
Okay. What you got, Matt?
I'm not going to say health because that's kind of the obvious one. And I've said I think they're going to be healthy, so that's not a key. One, I think, is going to be just the defining of the roles with Carmelo and Rose and even Brandon Jennings a little bit. 3 ball-dominant guys. How are they going to mesh together? Obviously, number 2, Porzingis. Is he going to make a huge jump this year and become that borderline superstar that we think he can be? And third, I think, is going to be, the bench, obviously. Are they going to get some production from that bench, which I think they can.
Absolutely. I mean, they're going to have to have guys step up off the bench. If everybody stays healthy in a perfect world, then I think a guy like Porzingis takes that big step forward. I think you see Joakim Noah kind of resurrect his career being able to make passes out of the post, because he is one of the best, passing big men, and that can really make a difference for guys like Derrick Rose cutting to the basket or a Carmelo, isolating on the wing. And then Porzingis kind of ties in there. I want to make sure he takes that leap forward and really establishes himself as a second-tier power forward, inching his way towards a top-tier power forward in another year or 2. And then basically for the third and final thing, what are they going to do offensively? Because last year they ranked 26th on offense, about 98 points a game. So looking at that, I mean, that's definitely got to go up. If they can get somewhere in the, 12 to 15 range, middle of the pack with that up-tempo offense, I think that's really going to make a difference. Now, defensively, I think they'll be okay because you've got Noah and Courtney Lee there, solid defenders to anchor that first unit and some defensive guys on the second unit. So those are the main keys for me. Going to you, Keith, will the Knicks make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they'll get into the playoffs. I think they'll be in the lower half of the Eastern Conference. It's going to take a little while for this to mesh. You've got a lot of strong personalities coming in, so I think they might get a little slow out of the gate. Ideally, I think you want to see the Knicks win games early so that then they can rest guys a little bit down the stretch. Joe Noah is one of those guys. I mean, you can give him some days off, and February, March, and April would really help him a lot. Same with Carmelo, and probably at this point in his career, Derrick Rose as well. So, I think they want to get off to a good start. I just don't know if I see it coming, but I think they have obviously enough talent that I'd like to see them, come together, and I think they'll make the playoffs. It's hard for me to envision them not there.
Okay. Gonzo, do you have the Knicks making the playoffs?
Absolutely. Any seed between 5 and 7? Absolutely. They have enough talent to do so in the East.
Okay. Matt, do you have them making the playoffs?
Yes, this is a playoff team. Yes. In the upper part of the East, I think. I like this team.
Okay, what do you mean by upper? Elaborate for everybody that's listening. What word?
No, I can't. You'll hear my bold prediction later.
Okay. All right.
Hear my bold prediction later.
We're gonna have something.
If it's a super team, I'm disconnected, Matt. I'm disconnected.
Yeah, he's gonna have them like number 2 overall or something, and we're all gonna have to debate that one on our overall season preview show coming on October the 24th. The day before, we're gonna do a prediction-wide or NBA-wide prediction show. We're gonna basically count down our 8 playoff teams for each conference. We're also gonna talk Rookie of the Year, MVP, some of those things. So look out for that. But answering the question, the Knicks are definitely a playoff team. I've got them slotted in about 6th or 7th, depending. I'm going to wait to that prediction show to kind of make a final prediction on that. I want to see what happens in the preseason. Some of these games go by over the next month. So the last question I've got for you going to you, Keith, is give me a bold prediction for the Knicks.
So my bold prediction is going to be that Derrick Rose does not give them what they want or need out of the point guard position, but that they end up just fine because Brandon Jennings gives them more than what they ever thought they'd get out of him.
Okay.
Gonzo, give me a bold prediction.
Bold prediction. I don't want to go overboard, but Carmelo Anthony MVP.
Nice.
Ooh, okay.
That is bold.
Okay, that's bold. Matt, give me a bold prediction.
Yeah. You called it, Pete. New York Knicks, number 2 seed in the East. Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Yes, I believe they'll be 2. I'm with Van Gundy. This is a 50-win team.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's definitely bold.
Yeah, it's bold. It's my boldest prediction yet.
Okay. If I have to go bold, I will say that I don't know that he makes it, but Porzingis is right there in an all-star, discussion. I think he takes a big leap forward year 2. I think he can get a decent, 19 points a game, and definitely be in that discussion, for the all-star team in the East. It pretty much is stunted because Matt, your prediction of number 2 went ahead of mine, so I don't think anything I would have said trumps that prediction. So,
no.
But that pretty much wraps us up for the Knicks.
Real quick. Keith wants to ask us something.
Yeah, I got one for you. So I'm going to turn the tables. I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to play host for a second.
Yeah.
So we were having this discussion. Is Carmelo Anthony a Hall of Famer?
Ooh. Right now?
Yep, right now, today. If he couldn't play anymore today, is he a Hall of Famer?
No.
Wow.
He is. If Yao Ming's a Hall of Famer, Carmelo is easily a Hall of Famer.
I'll put it like this here. Carmelo is a way better version of Bernard King. Absolutely.
What tipped it for me is, because I think he is too, and what tipped it for me is the Olympics. a lot of these guys, especially the foreign guys, we see them get in off their international play, and I don't think we can discount that just because he's an American-born NBA player, and he's had such great success in the Olympics. So that's what flips it for me. But I'd like to see him get a couple more healthy NBA seasons in first. But yeah, it's close. It was one of those where I get asked the question, and I was like, wow, I don't like. I had to really give it some thought. It was one of those where I came back a couple hours later with my final answer.
And see, for me, I factor in playoffs. I factor in just what really is he? I mean, yes, he's an isolation scorer, but for me, I look at an all-around game. I look at how much does he elevate a team, and just for me, I don't think he, what he did in Denver. I think he did more in Denver than he's done in New York overall. As far as, being a leader to the team. I think when he got to New York, I think, basically it was kind of a back and forth with Amari Stoudemire, a little bit jealous of Jeremy Lin and his success. Now he's kind of taking on that leadership role, but I think it's a little bit too late for him to kind of step in. I think, if he can get the Knicks to even the Eastern Conference semis, that would kind of push him above. But right now, I'd have to leave him off. I mean, Gonzo, you brought up Bernard King, but just the way he could score, and I just don't think compares to Melo. I mean, to me, if I needed a bucket and it came down to Bernard King or Carmelo, I'm going to Bernard King. But that's just my opinion. I don't hate Melo at all. I think he's a really good player. I just right now I'd have to leave him off of basically a first ballot Hall of Fame, definitely. And I mean he could sneak in there, but not a first balloter for sure. Now Yao Ming, I think basically Matt, you brought up if he can make the Hall of Fame, then so can Melo. I think it's a little bit of a situation there with Yao. I mean, he was a dominant center regardless of he only played a short amount of time. I don't think he was, a most dominant player that, Shaq ever played against like he tried to throw out there just to be nice. But I think if Yao would have stayed healthy without the foot issues, we would have saw a lot more as he matured in the NBA. So I don't knock him for, injuries. The better question to me would have been if I had to compare somebody, it would have been as Tracy McGrady, a Hall of Famer. If somebody asked, just because of a scorer, I would have compared him with the ability with Melo to score and not do much else. Because I don't put Melo in a category of an ultimate defender or even a marginal defender. In my opinion, I think he's a below average defender one-on-one, but that's just my opinion. But definitely good question, Keith. I'm sorry I missed it. I was kind of
all good
clicking around. So, but that does wrap us up for our Knicks preview. So just want to let everybody know, coming Wednesday, which is October the 5th, we start our Western Conference previews, and we are starting with the Sacramento Kings first.
Yes,
we definitely want to dive into that, and Keith, hopefully you're available. We want to get you on to talk some Kings with us and kind of go from there. But we're going to roll through every Western Conference team individually. We'll kind of release a schedule for sure in the coming week of kind of the teams that we have lined up. And we have a good amount of special guests for those teams. But just to kind of spoil it for everybody who's curious of some of those first teams that we are throwing out there, we're going to look at Sacramento first. Houston's going to be our second team that we cover on October the 7th, which is a Friday. And then Phoenix is going to follow on October the 8th on a Saturday. So those are the first three teams that we're rolling with to start our Western Conference previews. But everybody, please go to the Unquestionably Raw podcast on iTunes. We were gracious enough to hit the number 84th spot overall on the iTunes rankings this week. And then, of course, go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. Keith, where can the people find you?
Yeah, you can find me at on Twitter at Keith Smith NBA, and then I'm also my written work you can find at Real GM. Just had the last of the offseason recap pieces go up, so covered the Southwest Division, and that one went up yesterday. And then on today's Fast Break.com, you'll see coming out here in the next day or so a first piece. It's the Eastern Conference, and I went through for each of the 15 teams in each conference. I'm putting together a kind of outside the box idea. What is something that the teams could do that might, it's a little out there for some of them, but I think would be something that would improve each team. So it was a really fun piece to write, put together. So the Eastern Conference will be out in the next couple of days, and Western Conference after that. And hey, I'm just excited. We have a game tonight. It's great.
Absolutely, basketball is back.
Yeah, Golden State.
Yeah, Golden State plays. We get to see, the debut of Kevin Durant. Basically, I think everybody's going to be tuning into that for sure. It comes on at 7:30 Eastern. The Warriors and the Raptors, and that will be on NBA TV. And then for those of you that actually subscribe to League Pass, today was the first day you could do it. You've got the Dallas Mavericks against the New Orleans Pelicans at 8 o'clock. You can catch that on NBA League Pass. And tomorrow night we've got the Houston Rockets debuting their system under Mike D'Antoni against the Shanghai Sharks, which is owned by Yao Ming and who has Jimmer Fredette as their go-to scorer. So I can't wait to watch Jimmer play no defense against James Harden, who's going to play no defense, and for those two to kind of go off on each other potentially. So I'm definitely excited to see that. So everybody go check those games out. Check out our podcast, like I said, on iTunes. Go like it, go subscribe, and check us out on YouTube. Gonzo, let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at DJ Gonzo Star.
Perfect. Matt, for everybody that's listening, give them your Twitter handle.
At Twitter, at Meek Mill 1981.
Perfect. And I'm at Pete Tull on Twitter. So we will catch everybody on Wednesday for our first preview covering the Sacramento Kings. So catch you guys later.